Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the November 7th, 2023 Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present. Tonight we have a couple of announcements before we do have a presentation. It's election day. Polls will be open until 8 o'clock, so if you haven't voted, go vote and we'll wait. No, we won't. But you have until 8 o'clock. The city is hosting a public open house for our Transportation Master Plan update on Monday, November 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. at City Hall. This open house is to hear from the residents and local businesses relative to opinions and recommendations on the Post Falls transportation system. Your input is valuable to the process. If you are unable to attend the open house, please go to the city's website to provide input and stay current with the process. Join the Post Falls Police Department for Coffee with the Cop Friday, November 17th, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. at Thomas Hammer on East Mullen Avenue. No agenda or speeches, just a chance to ask questions, voice concerns, and get to know the police department staff. And the first cup of coffee is on us. And this is from Chief McLean. We would like to thank the business and community leaders who supported the police department by bringing in flowers and meals while offering condolences for Officer McDaniel. Also, thank you to the numerous people who lined the streets in the pouring rain to show support for Officer McDaniel as he was escorted to the cemetery. Finally, I would like to thank the 400-plus officers from the Coeur d'Alene Police Department, Kootenai County Sheriff's Department, Idaho State Police, and several other agencies reaching as far as Boise. I saw police officers with Moses Lake badges on their sleeves as well, and several other agencies reaching as far as Boise for their assistance and participation in the funeral of Officer McDaniel. I tell you, you never want to have to attend a funeral for anybody, but for law enforcement, first responders, and to see the number of vehicles, first emergency vehicles, police cars, et cetera, lined up. Several of us run a bus because of parking restraints or restrictions, and we came down pole line, we turned down Highway 41, and we got on the on-ramp at I-90 heading westbound to get to Spokane Street. And as we looked back, we could see Highway 41 that was bumper to bumper with police vehicles with their lights flashing, and they were all the way out 41 to pole line and down on pole line. That's how many officers were there. So it was a tremendous show of support and respect. And I know, Chief, we had several other agencies providing backup and coverage for our police officers who were there in full. The Sheriff's Department sat in one area. I don't know, there had to be 50 of them, but it was just, again, a tremendous amount of respect shown, and I really appreciate that. One little lady up on pole line just west of 41, she had one of those little walkers with a chair that she could, walk and turn around and sit. She standing up in front of her chair with the sign up in the pouring rain. So, and you saw the little kids, you saw people on the bridge. So again, something we hope to never see for a long time, but the respect shown was very heartwarming. So thanks to your folks for helping organize that, Chief. And we do have a presentation tonight from Safe Passage. Ladies, name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, men and women. My name is Leslie Johnson, and I'm with Safe Passage. I'm the Development Director. Just wanted to take the opportunity tonight to introduce you to Safe Passage if you are not aware of our services. We service the entire North Idaho region. Our mission at Safe Passage is to provide safety, empowerment, and education to the victims of violence in our community. And our vision takes every one of us to create a community free from violence. That's what we're working toward. A little bit about our history. We were a grassroots effort. We started in 1977. It took almost a year to get us off the ground. It was a group of women that were coming together from rape victims that were coming into the hospital. And they recognized that these survivors, really, of sexual assault needed a place to go, a safe place after the crime happened. And so we were incorporated in 1977 as the Women's Center, and now we are doing business as Safe Passage. But that just takes a little timeline for you. We started in a shelter in 1983. At this moment in time tonight, our shelter is full with about 18 women and children. 1996 was when we had the Violence Act Against Women that came about. And then in 1977, we had an award that we received for a victim service agency. In 2000, we started our Children's Advocacy Center, and we're proudly announcing that we just received a national accreditation as a Children's Advocacy Center. So that will help us open up some more grant opportunities for those services as we work with law enforcement and child protective services. Presently, we're seeing one child every single day, which is a tragedy. But after we do see those children and they provide us with a trauma-informed forensic interview, usually that means that child is on their way to safety. In 2003, we obtained a house. We had a generous donation, and it was a house that we actually were able to sell and then use that money to purchase the shelter that we're presently using now in Coeur d'Alene. It's a confidential shelter. All of our services are free and confidential, and we serve everyone. In 2005, we opened up a location on 4th Street. It used to be a little automotive place, and we're still in that location. We're planning on doing a capital campaign here in the future, probably when we hit our 50th anniversary, if everything goes well. And then in 2010, that's when we changed our name from the Women's Center. Most of you will remember North Idaho Violence Prevention Center as our name. But now we are operating under Safe Passage. And in 2012, that was when Kootenai County opened up the domestic violence court. And we've had some incredible success in that court system. People are flying in from other parts of the country to actually witness how that court is run. We have an advocate that shows up every single court case and is present there while the victim is facing their abuser in court, whether it's to get a child a civil protection order or something else. So we're present there for the victims, and the judges will refer the victims in the court that aren't aware of our services. They will point us out in plain clothing, and we're able to work with those victims and help them understand the law, the process, and everything that will be happening. In 2012 was when our I misspoke there. 2010 was when we received some monies for children's counseling services. 2012 was when our Children's Advocacy Center opened. In 2014 was when Katie Coker joined us as our executive director, and we're proud that she's still with our agency. She is our grant writer. 2017, Chantel, Sally, and now our new leader is Amanda Creer. And Amanda's been, she's a local. She's been with our agency since, for 9 years now. And so she's come up through the ranks and knows all of our services and has just been an incredible leader. She started as our executive director in June. So a little bit about our services, and it's just really important for you to know as leaders and business people and community members here what we offer, so that when you interact with someone, you may be able to point them to us. Our emergency shelter and extended shelter, we're open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can call or text us, so people can get a hold of us at any time. Quick story. There was a police officer who was called to the scene, domestic violence call, and it was because there was a loud noise and the neighbors heard yelling. Police officer determined that one of the two, husband or wife, needed to leave the home that night, and the husband said, I don't have anywhere to go. The woman ended up leaving and sleeping in her car. Luckily, that police officer told her about Safe Passage, and she was at our door at 8:30 in the morning when we opened. And we were able to listen to her story and determine that she qualified to be in our safe shelter. And she had been living in that 20-year abusive marriage, not aware of our services. But we were able to help her get a civil protection order, have safe shelter, and start her life over. So those referrals can be really critical. Advocacy, I mentioned that. We do safety planning as well. And we're able to help these survivors connect within our community. We have a great community. I'm a native here, and a lot of our agencies were working together to collaboratively help our neighbors get lifted up when they really need some help. We have housing support. We just have an extended shelter now, and we received some grant money to help with transitional shelters, which in this housing climate is going to be really critical. And we have our prevention and outreach. So we're into the school systems. We're out there in the middle school and the high schools. We're teaching about healthy relationships, all the way down to what is consent. Consent is asking, can I give you a hug? Something as simple as that. If we can teach these kids early on about consent, it's going to help things in the long run. Our Children's Advocacy Center, there's a picture of Lucy there. She's our facility dog that came on staff last year. And she sits beside the kiddo, helping them to feel comforted when they're telling their trauma story to the interviewer. And sometimes a child won't tell their story of trauma to the adult, but we'll ask if they'll tell it to Lucy, and most of the time they will. So we'll leave the room, the recording is happening, and they'll tell their story to Lucy, which is really important for court. We do have support services. Right now, we have these different support groups that are happening, so people who have come out of abuse can actually get support and help rebuild their life. Our hospital response is all the time. It's a partnership with Kootenai Health. They have a forensic nursing program. Their staff have been incredibly well trained, and we are called on every sexual assault, domestic violence, or stalking or human trafficking call, children all the way through adults. And we respond within 30 minutes to those calls. Not long ago, we had 4 calls in one night. So that hospital response is really critical to the health and well-being of our neighbors and our residents. And then we have our resiliency services, which is our clinical counseling for trauma. We do adolescents all the way through, and our adolescents are benefiting from equine therapy. So we're really excited about the outcomes of that. And just empowerment to prevent. We're doing, Green Dot bystander training at North Idaho College, teaching those students what it looks like to intervene when they're seeing somebody drug up the stairs. Picture a group of either it could be men or it could be women dragging the opposite sex up the stairs when that person's intoxicated. How do you step in and help in a safe way? So we're also at North Idaho College. We have an office there. We can be responsive in a very quick way, and we do jail presentations. We're teaching about advocacy there. We're educating. We're partnering with different businesses throughout our communities and nonprofits, schools. We're working our way to get into the elementary schools now too, because these kids learn this early. Did you know that 50% of the mass shootings in the United States of America, the mass shooter, 50% have witnessed domestic violence in their home? It's a big deal. So by standing hand in hand with the community and survivors, we pave a way to a brighter, violence-free future through education, empowerment, and safety. And we are asking you to partner with us and help us spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. That's good information. It's very difficult situations that you deal with. It takes special people to be willing to work that side of things, and we appreciate what you and everybody at Safe Passage do and the assistance that you provide to those that need it.
Thank you. We've got a great team.
Great.
So
Thank you
thank
very
you for
much.
having us.
Thank you.
Are there any amendments to the agenda tonight?
We have none tonight, sir.
Any declarations of conflicts? Would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the October 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. Item B is payables October 10th through October 30th, 2023. Item C is Boyd's Landing subdivision plat application. Item D is the Kootenai County Public Transportation Agreement. Item E is August Cash and Investments. Item F is the Nagra Annexation Development Agreement. Item G is Black Bay LWCF Grant Acceptance. I think that's land, water, and something. H is the North Crown Zone Change Agreement. Item I is the Thompson Annexation Agreement. Item J is the crack sealer replacement. Item K is a compact excavator purchase for the Urban Forestry Division. Item L is the Hargrave Hathaway Annexation Agreement file number ANNX-22-8. Item M is the Nagra Annexation file number ANNX-22-11, grant of right-of-way. And item N is the Nagra Annexation file number ANNX-2211, grant of easements.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson. Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Tonight, next on the agenda is public hearings, and tonight we have none. Followed by unfinished business, ordinances and resolutions, and we have several. The first is the snow removal ordinance.
We don't have anybody speaking on it.
Correct.
Okay. I move to place the ordinance snow removal on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Walker,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Harrington.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, repealing Municipal Code Chapter 10.48 and adopting a new Chapter 10.48, requiring the owner or lessee of real property to remove snow from public sidewalks abutting the property, prohibiting placing snow, dirt, debris, and de-icer on public rights-of-ways, providing that the first and second violation of this ordinance within 2 years are infractions punishable by fines of $100 and $300 respectively, and providing that a third violation within 2 years is a misdemeanor punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 or by imprisonment of up to 6 months or both, providing that remaining sections of Post Falls City Code shall remain in effect, providing for severability, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I move to approve the ordinance snow removal and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Walker,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the next ordinance is the development agreement, text amendment.
I move to place the ordinance development agreement text amendment TA-23-1 on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Motion passes.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for amendment to Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.190 development agreements, providing that remaining sections of Post Falls City Code shall remain in effect, providing for severability, providing that for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I move to approve the ordinance development agreement text amendment TA-23-1 and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is City Hall remodel, amendment number 2. Mr. Beecham.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm John Beecham, Public Works Director, here to talk about the Second Amendment to the design contract for remodels at City Hall here. Just as background, in case anybody's tuning in for the first time on this, City Hall was constructed in 2008, and we've done some minor remodels, but no major remodels since then. In our 2021 facilities plan, we did identify some needs for expansion, especially for office space and to address some other issues. What's really driving this specific remodel is the need for more office space in the administration and legal departments. The original project had adding those office spaces, some security remodels, minor modifications to how the council chambers here are configured, and then to do some planning and option identification for expansion and community development and for options for the rotunda, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Tonight, we are proposing to add to that contract to relocate the basement conference room where you all had the workshop an hour or so ago to the second floor where there was historically a finance lobby where folks would come in and pay utility bills. That space is not utilized very much right now. And also to make improvements to the rotunda and the customer service desk that's in the rotunda. This would also add construction management formally to the contract. That was in the original contract, but we hadn't authorized it yet as we hadn't moved to that stage of the contract. So I've got a couple of diagrams on here, and this is basically, it's not for careful review, it's just big pictures, but we'll be adding the conference room to the finance lobby area, leaving the offices generally as they exist today in the back of that. This would be a publicly accessible conference room, so folks who are coming to a workshop or some other public meeting be able to walk up the stairs or take the elevator to a conference room that's not tucked away in the basement as we've been using for several years. The other elements are, in terms of structural remodels, making a family restroom available off the rotunda. So if you look behind me, there's this space in the council chambers that's not really well utilized. This would wall that off and basically turn it into a family restroom for folks.
Right there?
Exactly. Just right there. The other and possibly more important upgrade to the rotunda would be to add some acoustic baffles in there so that folks can hold a conversation without either whispering or shouting. Those are kind of the two options that work the best. This would allow us to use that space for open houses, for informal meetings with folks who come to City Hall and just want to touch base with somebody on staff who maybe doesn't have access to a conference room immediately, and basically make it a more inviting space for folks to come in and interact with other members of the community or with the city. I should have said these are not the final selection for what those acoustic panels would be. Those are just examples of what they might look like. In terms of the amendment itself, our initially authorized contract was $59,000. Again, that did not include construction. We did not authorize the construction portion of that contract. The initial contingency has been unused. It was about $6,000. We did amend the contract in June to investigate the feasibility of that conference room on the second floor, see if it would even fit, see if Jason's staff would still have somewhere to sit. Found out they did, so that's why we're back. And then also to look at the feasibility for that restroom. So our recommendation is to move forward designing those elements for the new restroom, the conference room on the second floor, and authorize the construction management for all the previous elements of the contract. The total for that would be, including that contingency, $164,380. If we move forward with this, the design would get finalized over the next couple of months, and we would come back before you with the bid results sometime early 2024. Are there any questions?
Any questions? John, go ahead, Carrie.
I have a question. You mentioned for the family restroom and the meeting room, the baffles, the soundproofing, was that in there too?
Soundproofing is in the yes,
original one?
Design of the soundproofing and construction management for it to be installed is in this second amendment of the contract.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't have that on my bulleted list.
Anybody else?
The increase is already in the budget somewhere?
It's in the. I think a way I would say that is this fits within the overall facilities capital budget for the year. I think we will be back to talk to you about facilities projects overall and where the construction elements of this would get funded out of.
So you need a motion to move forward with this, correct?
Yes, please.
I would move to approve the City Hall remodel amendment number 2 to contract with Bernardo Wills.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, John. It's going to be interesting to see what you come up with on the sound reduction out there, because that's been an issue since day one.
I was gonna say since the very
And
first day,
we've
yeah.
had other folks look at it, not quite sure how to come up with any kind of a sound absorption design out there, so it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. Thanks for your time. Next item, wastewater service truck procurement.
Hello again.
He's back.
All right.
John Beecham, Public Works Director. Here tonight, asking for your support of a resolution that would authorize us to purchase a wastewater service truck on the open market. And I'll go into a little bit of background. We have been trying to buy this truck since the beginning of fiscal year 22 and really even before that. We're trying to replace our 2013 service truck, and we first tried to take sort of the standard approach and order a chassis through an regular vehicle manufacturer and then buy a body for it afterward. And they closed the bidding window in 2022, so we weren't able to do that for a period of about 10 months. And then another truck came available on the local market that we said, hey, that fits our needs, and it's locally available, and we could get it if we determine it's the only one we can buy. So we came before you all and asked if we could do that, and found that there were no other trucks available reasonably at that time. And by the time that process had been completed, they had sold the truck to somebody else, which was a little frustrating. So following that, we said, we've got information that there's going to be trucks available to local dealers again. So we went out for public bids, and we encouraged all the dealers who were telling us they were getting trucks in the near future to put in a bid, and we would happily bring one of those before you all to review. And we got 0 bids for that, despite the trucks being on order. So we are looking at other options, and what we're hearing from the dealers is they're having a hard time committing to a vehicle because they don't know when they will get it. So the uncertainties in getting a vehicle from Chevy or Ford and then getting a box bolted onto it are preventing them from bidding. That's what we're being told anyway. And we're observing the dealers want to sell the vehicles as quickly as possible. Cities are not great at buying vehicles quickly, which on the maintenance side of things we appreciate, but on the trying to buy a truck side is a little more complicated. Going the wrong way here. So our request is basically to authorize me in my capacity as Public Works Director to have the authority to purchase a vehicle from a dealer if we identify that there's one that meets our specifications and budget. And there's a couple different ways we would accomplish this. We'd either find a complete vehicle from someone who manufactures this sort of thing, so they buy the vehicle, they bolt the body on the back, and then they sell the whole unit. Or we would potentially do the longer process where we order one from one of the major vehicle manufacturers and then buy a body separately. Really, at this point, we're down to what can we accomplish in a reasonable time frame. I'm hesitant to say this because it keeps falling through our fingers, but we do have, in the last week, leads on 2 vehicles that would meet our needs, one local and one in Jerome, Idaho. So don't tell anybody there's one in Jerome, Idaho if they're looking for a service truck.
Your secret safe.
We'll hear tomorrow morning that it's been sold. I put it in the packet. It's not here. I'm requesting authorization for up to $250,000. I suspect it's actually going to be under $200,000. The 2 vehicles we've identified are $189,000 and $199,000, which lines up with where we've been with the rest of the bids and things that have fallen through.
Quick question. With our purchasing policy and that, if council chooses to authorize John the authority to purchase that, does that fall into line with all of our purchasing policies?
Yes, we've gone through sort of the standard bidding process that's normally required, but because we haven't received any bids, The code basically allows us, in the discretion of the council, if you find it as a fact that it can be more economical to procure it on the open market, we move forward, and that's why the resolution is before you today.
Okay. Any other questions?
I would move to approve the wastewater service truck procurement.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. You'll come back in 2 weeks and tell us you were able to secure the vehicle,
I
correct?
sure hope so.
Be a good shopper.
Thanks, John. And the last item under Section 3 is the ordinance on the Nagra annexation.
Okay, I move to place the ordinance, Nagra, is that how it's pronounced?
That's how I would pronounce it.
Okay. Annexation file number ANNX-22-11 on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, annexing property consisting of approximately 2.83 acres of a parcel of land being a portion of the southeast quarter of Section 20 of Section 20 Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian, Kootenai County, Idaho, providing for amendment of the official zoning map and providing an effective date hereof.
I move to approve the ordinance Nagra annexation file number ANNX-22-11 and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson. Thorson.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Shove.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Next item on the agenda tonight is new business, and we have none, followed by citizens' issue. And this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council on a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. If anyone wishes to speak, come forward. Seeing none. Next item up is administrative staff report. So we do have 2 items. First is zoning information handout presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Jacobson and members of the City Council. My name is Anna Stahl. I'm a Planner 1 with the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. And I'm going to be going over some handouts that the Planning Division has created. We worked on these at the request of Nancy Hampy, and the goal is to increase the level of service that we can provide to the community. We created 2 handouts, 2 types. The first is the land use chart, and this is a really good place to start for anyone that has a specific development in mind and they're wanting to know what areas and which zones they can work with for that development. It's also a really good place to start if somebody has property that they're hoping to annex into the city of Post Falls. They can take a quick look at this handout and get an idea of what the most appropriate zones would be to annex into the city with. And then the other handouts that we created are the zoning code sheets, and these are a really good place to start if somebody has property in Post Falls and they know their zone, but they don't know what they can do with it. They can take a quick look at whichever zoning code handout is for their zone and then have an idea of these are the uses that are allowed, these are the ones that need a special use permit, and these are the ones that just won't work. And this is an example of what we've got on the land use chart. Almost all of the pictures on the land use chart were taken in Post Falls. You can see the first cottage home in Post Falls there. It has since been painted, and we're going to update the picture once it is fully done with construction. And essentially the land use type is going to be on the left, and then you can scan through the row and get an idea of which zones it's allowed in and if there are any special requirements, and also which zones it's not allowed in. Another land use type would be a sit-down restaurant. If somebody wants to start a restaurant, they can take a quick look at this and get an idea of whether it's outright permitted, not permitted, or if it needs a development agreement. And then the zoning code sheets. This is an example of the zoning code sheet for the residential mixed zone. You've got some basic information on what the zone is and the type of community development that it's meant to foster. And then you've got a column for principal uses. These are the things that you'll typically see in there, as well as uses that are allowed with a special use permit. And then we've also got some information on setback requirements, bulk and placement information that's in a little bit more detail than a handout that we already have for the bulk and placement table. And for the residential R1S, R1, R2, and R3, there's an additional column in the use categories. So for those ones, you'll have principal uses, which typically is going to be the type of residential that is allowed in that zone. And then accessory uses, for instance, in R1, your principal use is going to be the single family home. Accessory use will be your garage, your shed, etc. And then it'll also have that third column of uses that are allowed with a special use permit. And I did have the handouts with me, but I forgot to grab them. But we do have them at the front desk, and you're welcome to come and take a look at them at any time. We're very proud of them. And that is all I've got for you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Is that information on the website also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's great. The zoning codes can get really, really complicated. And it's
Yeah.
one thing
Yeah.
I've said for a long time is that the more we can get information in people's hands up front,
Mm-hmm.
the less conflict that everybody has to deal with. So I think it's a excellent project and a job well done. So thank you.
Thank you.
They
Thank
look
you.
great, too.
Good information, nice presentation, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is the 2022 impact fee report.
Good evening, Mayor Jacobson, Council President Thorson, and members of City Council. John Manley, Planning Manager here at the City of Post Falls, presenting the 2022 Impact Fee Report. So the Impact Fee Report, these are required annually. I meant to actually bring back the 2022 earlier in this year, but we had a lot of impact fee updates that were going through, and I didn't want this presentation to get confused with those endeavors. We did wrap up the 2023 fiscal year here recently, so I probably will be bringing that forward here in the near future. But that's kind of why you're seeing this in December versus earlier in the year. So impact fees, they're payments required by local governments to deal with new development for the purposes of providing and expanding public capital facilities required to serve the community and new developments. They're a way to shift the cost burden for public facilities from the general taxpayers, allowing growth to pay for growth. This report is a requirement for collecting impact fees per that cited code section, state code section, Title 67, Chapter 82. It's also within Post Falls City Code, Title 19, subsection 19480G. To note, impact fees, they're not to be used for the purpose other than for system improvement costs to create additional improvements to serve new growth. As far as the collection, we collect it, and they must be expended within 8 years on a first in, first out, a FIFO method. There are ways to extend it beyond 8 years, and it's identified there as item A and B. So going into 2022, you can see here that the period and approximately just shy of 5 million were collected in impact fees, but there is an expense of 8 million of impact fees on roads, parks, and public safety. So with impact fees, you'll see specifically with roads, there's a period of collecting, and then you save more money, and then you have a large expense because roads are expensive. So you end up having an ebb and flowing of your balances with impact fees. Parks is similar. Parks are as expensive as well, and park improvements, you'll see that same kind of ebb and flowing. Here's where you see the impact fees, the totals for each one of those, roads, parks, and public safety, and what was collected. Here's the expenditure here of the 8 million. There was some other revenues, the 2.3 approximate million. That was reimbursed increment from impact fees that were utilized for the Highway 41 corridor. So that's how you see how you have the total of 6 million there, but I have your expenditures at 8. This here that was in your memo kind of shows the projects listed right here for each one of these funds. So funds 37 for roads, which includes multimodal. These are the projects cited there with their amounts. There's that 6.6 million. There's the funds 38, which is the parks, the projects they worked on, and the 1.3 million with the funds 35 being the public safety and what that was expended on. Here's a historical context, how you see the beginning balances on the left-hand side with the balances on the right changing through time. You can see that the balance in 2021 was greater than in 22. And you can see the differences in expenditures through the years. You can see in 21, there wasn't much expended on the roads versus you had in 22 a higher expense on roads. Kind of how I alluded to in the beginning.
Hey, John, quick question. I'm sorry, it's the old banker in me. Under interest, why are we positive in 3 of the years and negative in the 4th?
You know, I cannot answer that. I ran this fiscal
So
report.
Jason invests in bonds, and so those interest payments are posted on different years, so they'll be calculated out on the separate years. The unrealized gain on the bonds.
That's okay, we got it. So Jason said, just for the record, he wasn't a mic, so it's the,
Unrealized gain on the bonds.
so it's, and that's, so it shows negative, but that's because there's unrealized loss, or is that an unrealized, it's unrealized loss?
Unrealized.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
GASB has all kinds of new rules and regulations that they make Jason go through.
Well, and with current interest rates, yeah, their rates going up, bonds are gonna be worth less, so, okay, thank you.
So that kind of just wraps up the nutshell of the impact fee report. Just kind of what was collected, what was expended on. Any questions for me? I do know that there's no decision for this. That's why it's just a report to go before you guys.
Questions, John? I appreciate the information, and, impact fees are difficult because they get expensive. I know Coeur d'Alene's looking at, I think they're revamping theirs for the first time in 20 years almost, as I recall. I know we do that on a much more frequent basis, and you hate to see the fees go up, but by the same token, it's easier to assess a fee with a slightly smaller increment. Going every 5 years is going to be much better than waiting. So I appreciate the work you folks do on this, and this is good information to have.
And then one more thing to add, because some may know that we do collect impact fees on behalf of the fire department, but when we run a report, I'm doing the report on what our city collects for our own capital fees, not for what their goals and fees are for. So,
Good.
right.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Mayor and council comments. I'd just say with daylight savings and this beautiful dreary weather we're having, it's dark. We've got little kids going to school in the dark. We got little kids coming home from school when it's starting to get dark. On several occasions, I've mentioned the rapid flashing beacons. That's probably the wrong term, and our engineers will get after me, but I have seen more and more kids using those. And I know there's more being put in all the time, and so encourage kids to push a button, light up those crosswalks so they can get across the street safely. And I encourage all drivers to pay attention and stop, even if it's not flashing, stop and let these kids cross. Difficult for them to get across busy streets. We need to keep our kids safe. So I'd ask that you be very defensive in your driving and watch out for the little ones. Council comments.
Go vote. Still got an hour and 15 minutes left, if you haven't yet.
Thank you. We do need an executive session tonight.
I would move to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated, and further that no action will be taken during the session and that the session will last approximately 10 minutes.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shove.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll enter into executive session. Call the meeting back to order. Are there any motions to come forward?
Go home.
Adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.
I want Joe to go home.